The desert had always carried secrets, but on this night it breathed with something ancient. Beneath the stars, the Great Pyramid of Giza rose in the sand like an immortal sentinel, watching civilizations rise and fall, holding its silence through empires and wars. To most, it was a monument of stone. To a select few, it was a question that never stopped whispering. How did they build it? Why did they build it? And why does it still stand as if time itself had agreed never to touch it? For decades, scientists had chipped away at theories, but this year, a signal had broken the pattern of speculation. Deep penetrating scanners sent through the desert bedrock had revealed a void not marked on any blueprint, not on any ancient record. It was geometrically precise, pulsing faintly with readings no geology could explain. The void lay directly beneath the Great Pyramid, a place untouched for thousands of years. And the signal was not geological at all. It was electromagnetic, rhythmic, alive. The world pretended not to notice. But behind closed doors, invitations were sent in encrypted channels. Egypt's government quietly approved the presence of outsiders. Archaeologists, military engineers, physicists, cryptographers, each sworn into silence. An excavation began at night, when the tourist crowds had thinned and only the desert wind bore witness. Lights drilled into the sand as teams lowered equipment. The air itself seemed heavier, charged with something that pressed into the skin. Soldiers muttered that compasses spun erratically. Radios crackled with voices no one on the other end admitted speaking. At first, it was routine. Layers of sand removed. Steel drills brought forward, seismic sensors humming. But within hours, the routine collapsed into unease. The drills, designed to tear through solid bedrock, hit resistance not of stone, but of something denser, something metallic. Sparks flared, bits of alloy sheared from the earth, impossibly smooth even under magnification. Engineers shook their heads. No earthly forge could produce metal that resisted diamond tips and plasma cutters alike. Yet the object lay buried, as if the sand had swallowed it before Egypt itself was born. The archaeologists were the first to whisper. Hieroglyphs on nearby stones had always been read as myths. Stories of sky gods descending, of wars fought in the heavens, of chosen kings commanded to build monuments aligned not with the earth but with the stars. Some laugh, calling them poetic exaggerations. But when the team dug deeper, something extraordinary happened. The carvings glowed, not with paint, not with reflection of lanterns, but from within. Ancient hieroglyphs that slumbered for millennia pulsed with faint light, like veins reconnecting to a forgotten heart. The workers began to dream. Men who had never studied hieroglyphs woke mumbling symbols, sketching constellations in the sand with trembling fingers. One swore he saw a shadow pass across the moon, vast and deliberate, though no others did. Another was found at dawn, staring into the pyramid wall, lips moving silently as if in conversation with someone inside the stone. Tools malfunctioned, batteries drained as if swallowed by an invisible mouth. Even the desert animals, scorpions, jackals, the rare wandering camel, kept a wide berth, vanishing in patterns of avoidance, as if something older and stronger than instinct drove them away. And yet the work continued. Orders were orders. The Egyptian overseers pushed. Foreign governments pressed through back channels, and soon a chamber was revealed. Unlike the rest of the pyramid's limestone and granite, the chamber was lined with obsidian-black walls smooth as glass, impervious to chisels or explosives. The air inside was dry but thick, almost liquid in its weight, as though time itself had coagulated there. At the chamber's heart lay geometry that defied understanding. Angles that didn't align, corners that twisted when stared at, shapes that seemed both curved and sharp, infinite and enclosed. It was there that they found it. The ship. It was not a vessel in the way humanity imagined ships, not with sails or wings or engines that belched fire. It was a colossus of shadowed metal, ribs of alloy bent into an oval form, its surface carved with symbols that seemed both language and circuitry. It did not rest like a corpse but coiled like a sleeper, ready to rise. Though buried beneath sand and stone, it gleamed faintly, as if lit by an inner sun no darkness could kill. The archaeologists argued whether it was a tomb, a prison, or a shrine. The engineers only measured, trying to make sense of alloys that predated the very concept of smelting. And the soldiers kept their fingers on triggers, For men are not at ease when their world begins to admit its lies. The first pulse came when they stepped inside. A tremor like a heartbeat shuddered through the floor, knocking sand loose from ancient stones above. Lights flickered. The hieroglyphs on the walls blazed brighter, shifting shapes into new constellations. A sound filled the chamber, low and resonant, vibrating through marrow rather than air. Some dropped to their knees, hands over ears, though no ears could block it. Others felt the sound settle in their skulls, as words not yet translated, words that did not care if they were understood. The ship was awake. For the first time in over 4,000 years, the desert had remembered, but men are stubborn creatures. The archaeologists pressed closer, measuring, scanning, whispering frantic notes. The soldiers reported to their commanders, their eyes restless, as though they expected something to reach from the dark and pull them in. The scientists argued over data that refused to fit earthly logic. No machine could map the ship's interior, for every scan revealed more rooms than could exist inside its measured shell. Corridors folded into themselves. Staircases climbed into loops that spat the traveler back where they began. And yet, in the heart of that impossibility, lay something constant, a chamber shaped like an altar, its surface waiting, its energy climbing. Whispers spread through the camp. Some said the pyramids were never tombs but locks, and humanity had just turned the key. Some swore they saw figures in the corner of their vision, tall, angular, their forms etched in light rather than flesh. One guard shot into the shadows, but the bullet vanished, swallowed as though the air itself had taken it. His rifle rusted overnight, crumbling to uselessness in his hands by morning. Still the excavation grew. Still the chambers opened. Still the ship pulsed. And then the dreams worsened. One by one, men and women confessed visions. They stood beneath stars never seen by human eyes, orbiting a sun that pulsed like a wound. They saw cities of crystal torn apart by beings of shadow. Colossal wars fought in silence across the void. And they saw Earth, not as a home, but as a cage. A sanctuary, yes, but one with bars. A place where something had been buried, hidden away, waiting for a species foolish enough or brave enough to dig too deep. Not all could bear it. One engineer walked into the desert at dawn, leaving his boots behind, his bare feet sinking into the burning sands until horizon swallowed him whole. He never returned. Another clawed at his ears until blood poured, screaming that the voices would not stop calling his name. The overseers hushed the stories, burying them beneath promises of discovery. But even their own eyes betrayed them. They too woke sweating, clutching sheets. When the signal burst beyond the desert, silence was no longer possible. Satellites caught fragments, military listening stations recorded strained oscillations, and in hours the story leaked across borders like water through cracked stone. What began as whispers among scholars became headlines shouted across the globe. Something was beneath the pyramids, something not human making. At first, governments denied it, dismissing the footage as doctored, but denial only fueled curiosity. Grainy clips smuggled out by trembling workers showed glowing hieroglyphs, impossibly smooth metal, and voices echoing in frequencies human throats could not produce. The world turned its eyes to Giza. Religion spoke first. Some declared proof of gods, the return of ancient watchers. Pilgrims flooded Cairo, pressing against barricades, praying to the pyramid as if the sands themselves could deliver salvation. Others called it blasphemy, demons masquerading as celestial. Tension spilled into streets, voices rising, fists clashing, for humanity is never united in the face of revelation. Yet behind the chaos, the powerful worked in shadows. Egypt, proud and possessive of its heritage, claimed sole ownership, refusing entry to foreign militaries. But satellites revealed increasing movement of troops near Giza, and soon Russia, America, and China prepared their own contingencies. The pyramids were no longer monuments. They were battlegrounds waiting to ignite. Inside, the ship's awakening deepened. Walls of impossible alloy shimmered with shifting light, hieroglyphs morphing into patterns no eye could follow. A resonance filled the chambers, bending compasses, cracking lenses, and warping sound. Then, for the first time, words emerged, not from speakers, not from human throats, but directly into minds. Every person in the chamber froze as the voice wove itself through their skulls, layered, ancient and merciless. It spoke in Egyptian, in English, in Arabic, in Russian, in every tongue at once, a chorus that bent into clarity. You are the inheritors of a sanctuary. This world is not yours alone. The words dropped like stones into water. Panic broke the chamber. Some fled. Others screamed prayers. A soldier fired into Blackwall, only to see the bullet dissolve into sparks. But amid the chaos, the voice continued, its tone devoid of malice yet heavy with authority. You live upon the skin of a prison. The sky gods fell, and their war was sealed beneath your desert. Do not break the seal, or you will call back what was never meant to rise again. The archaeologists trembled. The scientists scribbled furiously. But the soldiers gripped their weapons tighter, for soldiers do not bow easily to disembodied warnings. The debate outside mirrored the fear inside. Should the ship be sealed once more, buried deeper than memory, or should it be claimed, studied, weaponized? For the voice had said something subtle, yet undeniable. This was not simply a tomb. It was a prison and a weapon. Days stretched into nights. Global eyes fixed on Egypt, but only fragments of truth leaked out. Still, rumors spread faster than suppression. In every capital, leaders debated the same question. If the ship could be controlled, what power might it grant? Empires had risen on less. The pyramids, once symbols of history, now became pieces on a global chessboard. And while nations argued, the ship stirred. The second awakening was not subtle. Lights rippled across its surface, illuminating corridors that had been dead for ages. Shapes moved in the dark. Figures tall and angular, neither holy matter nor light. They drifted through walls, their forms bending geometry, leaving trails of shadow where no light reached. Soldiers raised rifles, but the voice commanded. They are the wardens. They test the unworthy. Those who cannot endure will not remain. And as if to prove its words, a young guard collapsed, his body stiffening, his eyes wide with terror at a vision only he could see. When medics rushed to him, he was gone, dissolved into air like a mirage. Fear thickened the chamber, but greed was stronger. Scientists begged for more time, decoding fragments of alien script, discovering patterns in the light. They claimed the ship's energy could outlast suns, that its alloy could build weapons indestructible, that humanity stood on the edge of a leap forward not seen since fire was first tamed. Their voices rang with desperation and ambition. If one nation controlled it, the balance of the world would shatter forever. But the ship was not passive. It listened, it weighed, and at last it spoke again, this time with words sharper, less patient. Your kind was meant to wait. You were meant to rise in time, not in haste. To claim what lies beneath is to inherit not mastery, but chains. Choose, children of the dust. Seal us once more, or awaken what your bones cannot withstand. The leaders inside argued. Egypt's ministers demanded closure, fearing what slumbered below. Foreign advisors whispered to seize it, to weaponize what they barely understood. Soldiers pressed for orders. The debate grew loud, ugly, fractured, while above ground the world teetered on chaos. Crowds outside the barricades swelled by the thousands, chanting for revelation or warning against blasphemy. The desert groaned under human weight, while beneath, the ship's heartbeat grew stronger. And then the first constructs emerged. They were not alive in a human sense, nor machines in any earthly design. They stepped from the walls themselves, angular silhouettes with limbs too long, eyes burning like coals pressed into glass. They studied the humans silently, then moved with impossible speed, passing through flesh as though it were mist. Where they touched, memories shattered. Soldiers forgot their own names. Scientists forgot their equations. One woman forgot the face of her child. Panic erupted. Gunfire lit the chamber, bullets sparking uselessly against alien skin. In the chaos, 3 were taken, pulled into walls, their screams cut short, their absence final. Silence followed, broken only by the ship's hum. And then the voice came again, colder, unworthy, fragile, yet still they reach for flame. But humans are nothing if not stubborn. Even as fear spread, one scientist, Dr. Malik, cracked part of the code etched into the ship's walls. It was not merely a prison, but a cage with 2 locks. One external, the pyramids themselves, and one internal, a mechanism awaiting command. He argued that humanity had two choices: seal it permanently, as the builders intended, or unlock it fully and seize the power that had been hidden for millennia. His words ignited a fire among soldiers and politicians alike. To bury it was cowardice. To claim it was destiny. In the end, curiosity outweighed caution. The order was given: press deeper, unravel the locks, awaken what lay within. Humanity had been warned, but warnings are air to a species that climbed from caves against all odds. What were gods or wardens to men who had walked on the moon? They would face the abyss not with prayer, but with will, even if the cost was unbearable. The ship listened. The ship responded. Its pulse grew thunderous, shaking sand from the pyramid's ancient stones, rattling the desert floor for miles. In Cairo, windows shattered. In Jerusalem, calls to prayer paused as the earth quivered. In Washington and Moscow, alarms blared, satellites flashing images of energy surges too vast to comprehend. But in Giza, those standing inside the chamber felt it most, the weight of awakening